The film opens with Minho, a businessman, stepping out of jail, his freedom hanging precariously on bail. He's the prime suspect in the murder of his girlfriend, Kim. Immediately, Minho seeks counsel, calling his lawyer, a sharp woman determined to unravel the truth. "Walk me through it, Minho," she demands, "every detail. What happened at the hotel? How did Kim die? Why are you the one blamed? Who alerted the police? I need everything." As Minho begins to recount the events, the narrative plunges into a flashback, the fateful day of Kim's murder. He describes meeting Kim at a hotel, their conversation abruptly interrupted by the sight of police cars outside. "Panic seized me," Minho confesses, "I just had to escape. But before I could move, a figure emerged, striking me on the head. I lost consciousness. When I awoke, Kim was gone from the room." His voice drops. "I stumbled into the washroom, and there she was. Kim's body. Before I could even process what I was seeing, the police stormed in and arrested me. They assumed I was the killer." Back in the present, the lawyer's gaze is unwavering. "Minho," she states, her voice laced with doubt, "you're not giving me the full picture. I've reviewed the police file, the investigation reports. There's no evidence of another person in that room. Tell me the truth, Minho. What are you hiding?" Silence hangs heavy in the air as Minho avoids her gaze. Undeterred, the lawyer presents a photograph. "Do you recognize this boy? He disappeared a few days ago." Minho glances at the picture, a flicker of something in his eyes, but firmly denies recognition. "If you're telling me the truth," the lawyer begins, her words hanging in the air. It's a turning point. Something in her tone, or perhaps his own unraveling conscience, cracks Minho's facade. He begins to speak, and the story shifts once more into flashback, this time months prior. We see Minho en route to meet Kim, wrestling with guilt. He's married, and the affair is eating away at him. He resolves to end it. He tells Kim his decision, and as she drives, anger flares. Distracted, her focus wavers, and she fails to see the car approaching head-on. In a desperate maneuver, Kim swerves, narrowly avoiding a collision with the oncoming vehicle. Their car is safe, but the other car is not so lucky. It crashes. Horrified, Kim and Minho rush to the wreckage. Inside, the driver, a young man, is dead. It's the boy from the lawyer's photograph, Han. "I was paralyzed by fear," Minho admits, reliving the moment. "I wanted to call the police, but Kim stopped me. She argued that no one had witnessed the accident, that involving the police would only ruin us. Her solution was chilling: dispose of the body and disappear." Just as they are about to enact this grim plan, police sirens wail in the distance. Minho's panic returns, but Kim remains unnervingly composed. When the officers arrive, they find Kim and Minho beside the wrecked cars. With astonishing ease, Kim fabricates a story, claiming it was merely a minor accident, already resolved. She even goes as far as to call her car insurance company in front of the police, solidifying her lie. The police, with no reason to suspect foul play, leave. As soon as they are alone, Kim's demeanor hardens. "You wanted to end us, right?" she says to Minho, her voice cold. "Consider it done. What happened here, this is our secret now, just like we were." She instructs Minho to take Han's undamaged car and leave. Minho obeys, driving away in Han's car, while Kim returns to her own, only to find it won't start. Fate intervenes in the form of an elderly man passing by. He offers help, and Kim, desperate, accepts. The kind stranger tows her damaged car to his nearby house, spending hours painstakingly repairing it. Finally, the car is fixed. As Kim expresses her gratitude and prepares to leave, the old man mentions his son hasn't come home yet, a worried undertone in his voice. He points to a picture, Han. Kim freezes, recognition dawning with sickening clarity. The man who just helped her, the father of the boy she and Minhoo left for dead. Suddenly, a phone rings. It's Han's phone, in Kim's bag, a jarring sound in the quiet house. Panicked, Kim quickly places the ringing phone on a nearby sofa, hoping the old man will assume his son simply forgot it. She makes a hasty exit, leaving the grieving father behind. Haunted by the accident and its aftermath, Minhoo throws himself into his work and family life, seeking solace in routine and success. His business flourishes. Then, one day, a police officer arrives at his office, his presence shattering Minhoo's fragile peace. The officer begins to speak of a highway accident, and the carefully constructed facade of Minhoo's life begins to crumble. Ignoring the police officer's veiled probe about the highway accident, Minhoo feigned ignorance, accepting the offered business card with a dismissive air. If anything comes to mind, the officer had said, a hint of skepticism in his voice. Days later, Minhoo sat with his wife, attempting a semblance of normalcy over dinner. But the illusion shattered as the evening news flickered to life. The broadcast detailed the very accident the officer had mentioned, and then, a sketch filled the screen, Kim's face. The news anchor declared Kim a fugitive, wanted in connection with the highway incident. Han's father, the report explained, had given a statement placing Kim at the scene. With no known address for her, suspicion had solidified around her. Just then, Minhoo's phone buzzed, an unknown number. It was Kim, her voice hushed and urgent, directing him to a clandestine meeting. He went, apprehension gnawing at him. Kim was almost unrecognizable, her appearance drastically altered, hair cropped short, a nervous energy radiating from her. I had to change everything, she explained, to vanish from the police radar. Her purpose for this risky rendezvous became clear as she produced Han's credit cards. Change the account details, she instructed, make it look like he was a con artist, a fraud. Divert their attention from us. Minhoo, compliant, followed her instructions, meticulously altering the card details before burning the incriminating plastic. As predicted, when the police traced Han's financial activity, they stumbled upon these changes. A new narrative began to form, Han, a fraudster, staging his own disappearance to evade authorities. The case, conveniently, began to close. Minhoo breathed a sigh of relief, channeling his energy back into his business, which thrived in his renewed focus. But Han's father refused to let go. Driven by a father's intuition, he implored the police to reconsider, presenting Han's life, his character, through old photos and documents. This isn't him, he insisted, something is terribly wrong. He urged them to search the jungle area where Han's car was last tracked. Reluctantly, the police reopened the investigation, launching a nighttime search of the dense jungle. Hours yielded nothing. The next morning, Han's father returned home to a devastating sight, his wife, collapsed and unconscious at their doorstep, the strain of their unending grief finally taking its toll. He carried her inside, his own heart heavy with despair. The scene shifted back to the lawyer's office. Minhoo, having finished his convoluted account, sat expectantly. The night Kim was murdered, he declared, it wasn't just Kim and me at the hotel. Han's father was there too. He painted a picture of a vengeful father, driven to madness by grief. He knocked me out, then killed Kim, Minhoo asserted, to avenge his son. He framed me because I lied, not to kill me, but to make me suffer, to understand my mistake. He even implicated Han's mother, claiming she orchestrated his arrest after Han's father left the hotel room. The lawyer listened intently, her expression unreadable. Then, she rose, a steely glint in her eyes. Minhoo, she stated, her voice firm, your story is a fabrication. Now, let me tell you what really happened. the narrative plunged into yet another flashback, this time revealing the lawyer's version of events. That night, she began, "You were driving, not Kim. Your story about ending the relationship, the near-miss accident, all lies." She revealed the truth. Minhoo, distracted and reckless, was the one who caused the accident, who killed Han. Kim, initially wanting to call for help, was swayed by Minhoo's desperate pleas. "You were obsessed with your reputation," the lawyer continued, her voice sharp, "your ambition to join the elite. You couldn't risk a scandal." It was Minhoo who masterminded the cover-up, manipulating Kim into silence, twisting the narrative to his advantage, leaving her to bear the brunt of suspicion and guilt. Kim, heartbroken and burdened by the secret, lived in fear, forced to abandon her life, her identity. But Kim's conscience, the lawyer explained, eventually broke through Minhoo's web of deceit. Driven by remorse, Kim confessed everything to Han's father. The lawyer paused, letting the weight of her next words sink in. "And in his rage, Mr. Minhoo, Han's father killed Kim. But he didn't want to be a double murderer," she continued, "so he staged the scene, injured himself, and concocted this elaborate story, casting himself as a victim of circumstance." Minhoo stared, speechless, his carefully constructed lies crumbling around him. How could she know? He had told no one the full truth. "Don't worry, Mr. Minhoo," the lawyer said, a chillingly pragmatic tone entering her voice, "I'm still your lawyer. I'm still here to fight for you. But tell me, Mr. Minhoo, where did you dispose of Han and his car?" Cornered, with no escape left, Minhoo finally confessed the final, horrifying truth. I drove Han's car into the lake." His voice cracked, a tremor of something akin to remorse finally surfacing. "But Han was still alive when I did. He was begging for his life," Minhoo choked out, the confession raw and guttural, "but I couldn't risk it. If I let him go, I'd be finished. So I pushed him in, car and all." A wave of revulsion washed over the woman, the lawyer, or rather, Han's mother. Even she hadn't imagined such cold-blooded cruelty. She had believed Han died in the crash. The lawyer in her had anticipated lies, but not this level of depravity. Minhoo hadn't just covered up an accidental death, he had deliberately murdered a living, breathing boy. Numbly, she placed a map before him. "Show me," she commanded, her voice trembling with suppressed fury, "show me where you dumped his car." Minhoo, defeated, marked the location. As she retrieved the map, gathering her belongings, she fixed him with a chilling stare. "He was alive, Minhoo," she stated, each word a shard of ice, before turning and leaving the house. Outside, the storm raged, mirroring the turmoil within her. She started her car, but the tires spun uselessly, trapped in a muddy ditch. The weather was worsening rapidly. To stay outside meant succumbing to the elements. Minhoo, watching from the doorway, offered a hollow invitation, "You can stay here, if you want." Something about his demeanor, the off-key offer, triggered a flicker of suspicion in Minhoo's mind. He scrutinized the signature on the document she'd presented earlier. It didn't match the real lawyer's signature he vaguely recalled. Confusion morphed into chilling realization. This wasn't the lawyer. This was someone else entirely. The truth slammed into him, this was Han's mother. Driven by a desperate need for a confession, to pinpoint where her son lay submerged. As the horrifying truth dawned on Minhoo, panic surged. He lunged at Han's mother. A brutal struggle ensued, bodies crashing to the floor, a desperate fight for survival in the confines of his home. Both lost consciousness in the violent clash. Han's mother awoke first, disoriented but resolute. Her hand instinctively reached for the gun she'd concealed. But Minhoo, recovering faster, attacked again. In the ensuing chaos, the gun discharged. Minhoo cried out, clutching a bleeding wound. Despite her own injuries, Han's mother, fueled by years of grief and now a desperate need for justice, managed to call the police. When the authorities arrived, they found Minhu wounded, and Han's mother, armed but composed. Initial impressions pointed to her as the aggressor. She was arrested. But as Minhu was helped into the police car, a dam within him broke. He poured out the entire story to the officers, confessing everything, detailing the location of the lake, the watery grave of Han and his car, information he had unwittingly given to Han's mother. The police, now armed with Minhu's confession and the marked map, launched a new search. This time, they found it, Han's car, submerged in the lake, and within it, Han's remains, confirming Minhu's monstrous confession. The evidence was irrefutable. Minhu, still alive but his life irrevocably shattered, was arrested for murder. Han's mother, her purpose achieved, was released. Minhu's carefully constructed empire crumbled. He was left reeling, trapped in the jaws of a plan orchestrated by two grieving parents, a plan that had not only unearthed their son's location but had also ensured Minhu's permanent imprisonment. Justice, of a sort, had been served. Han's parents, finally seeing their son's body recovered, collapsed in heart-wrenching grief, their tears a mixture of sorrow and bitter relief. Their long nightmare was over. But for Minhu, a lifetime of regret and retribution had just begun. The story ends here, in the cold finality of justice and loss.